Hello everyone, it's Ms Redmond here. This is the third lesson of the Levels of Organisation of Body Systems topic, and this one is about how we breathe. So this is about how the respiratory system works to make us breathe air in and out. And if you haven't already got one, can you please go and get a pen and a piece of paper so that you can take notes and do any little tasks that I give you as we go through. Here's some success criteria at the bottom, so feel free to pause the PowerPoint and write those down. So, breathing demonstration. I want you to have a go at this as I'm talking, please. So sit straight up, straight upright, and put your hands on your rib cage about where this lady's got her hands, and breathe in deeply and see what you observe. So if you do that, you should feel that as you're breathing in, your rib cage is moving up and out, and as you breathe out, your rib cage moves in and down. And then try this one. Put your hands on your tummy, and you should be able to make it move by breathing in and out. So what do you observe? So you should notice that you're able, when you're breathing in, to push your tummy out, and when you breathe out, your tummy goes in, and we'll find out why that is in the next couple of slides. So this is a diagram of what's happening inside your chest when you're breathing in and out. So this is inhaling, breathing in, and what happens is you've got all of these bones in your rib cage. You might have been able to feel them when you were doing that demonstration, and in between all of those bones you've got these muscles. They're called intercostal muscles. They're the ones that hurt when you get a stitch, right? You're actually getting cramping in these intercostal muscles. By the way, if you get a stitch, the best thing to do is to just breathe really deeply and just try and keep breathing as deeply as you can, because that kind of stretches out these intercostal muscles. So when you breathe in, these muscles contract, and if these distances are all getting shorter because the muscle is contracting, that lifts the rib cage up and out, right? At the same time as that's happening, the diaphragm, which is this bit here, it's sort of a sheet of muscle that sits underneath your lungs inside your rib cage, that contracts and it pulls down and flattens. So both of these processes, the ribs going up and out and the diaphragm flattening and moving down, creates more space inside your chest cavity. So the chest volume increases, and that means that there's less pressure inside your chest, and that pulls air in through your mouth and nose. So lots of people think that your lungs are what do the work in breathing, but actually your lungs are pretty passive. There's no muscle in there. It's just lots of lovely elastic tissue that can move, but it doesn't move on its own. The lung tissue relies on the muscles of the rib cage and the muscle of the diaphragm moving to draw air in and push it out again. So this exhaling is the opposite process then. So here we've got the intercostal muscles contracting, and here they're relaxing. So as those muscles relax, the rib cage can drop and move in, and the diaphragm, this sheet of muscle here, as that relaxes, it actually curves upwards and moves up, right? So that's decreasing the volume inside your chest, and because of that, it's pushing air out. So that's exhaling. Here's a bell jar model, a GIF of the bell jar model and a GIF of the lungs. So This is like a plastic version that somebody's made. You could do this at home if you want. You just need plastic water bottle, a couple of balloons, 2 yellow balloons, and then cut a balloon up to put over the bottom, and then some drinking straws, and you can make one of these. So this is really good at showing you what the diaphragm does, because you can't see it really on this GIF. I guess it's supposed to be that pink bit. You can't see clearly what it's doing. So you can see on here that the diaphragm's pulling down, and that's creating more space inside the bottle, and so air is being pulled into these balloons. And then the GIF is showing you really quite well what's happening to the lungs. So it doesn't have the muscles on this GIF, but it is showing you that the lungs are moving up and out during inhalation and in and down during exhalation. So you can pause the video here if you want to and write down your answers to this question. So what does each of these parts represent? You've got the tube, the jar, the balloon, and the rubber sheet. And here's that diagram of the breathing system again. So this is like a slice through the person. So we've got the nose up here. You can obviously see the outside bit of this cavity. That's your nostril. And then you've got the mouth, and they join up together, which you'll know if you've ever accidentally sprayed food or drink out of your nose. A delightful thing to think about. Then you've got your trachea, which is your breathing tube. Your trachea connects your mouth and nose up to your lungs. So we get down to this point, and it branches off like the branches of a tree into one bronchus and another bronchus here that's hidden by the other part of the diagram. So these two together are called the bronchi. And then from these bronchi, or rather from this bronchus, you've got more branches, like the branches of a tree, and these are called bronchioles. And then each bronchiole ends in an alveolus. And they're little air sacs, we sometimes call them. And they look sort of like bunches of grapes. All right. So that's your lungs, and then outside your lungs, you've got the ribs, and between each rib there are intercostal muscles. So if you've ever eaten ribs in the restaurant, that's what you're eating. You're eating the intercostal muscles between the ribs of an animal. The heart is not actually part of the respiratory system or the breathing system, but it's just in there so that you know where it fits in. And this label is showing you the lungs. So you've got one lung here on the left, and one lung here on the right. And then this is just pointing out that that's a rib. So we've got a slice through the ribs on that side, so you can see what's going on. Okay, the next slide, I'm going to show you a GIF of some healthy lungs and some smokers' lungs being inflated. So you might find it a bit ick. So if you don't like things like that, then look away now or close your eyes, and I'll tell you when it's safe to look. All right, so look away now. All right, so this is the GIF. So you can see the nice pink healthy lungs, and in contrast you can see the black tar-filled lungs of a smoker. This isn't really part of this topic, but I think it's really interesting to see how much the non-smoker's lungs can inflate compared to how much the non-smoker's lungs can inflate. So what these scientists are doing is they're actually inflating them using a little air pump rather than the lungs. But the good news is, if a smoker stops smoking, the lungs immediately start healing themselves. So this damage can be reversed, and you can get your full breathing capacity back. Okay. All right, the GIF has gone, so it's safe to look if you We're closing your eyes. All right, have a go at this task then. We've got some sentences here about inhaling, and you've got words up in the box. So pause the video now and have a go at completing those sentences, please. And once you've done that, for a challenge, can you write a paragraph to explain how we breathe out? So first step, complete these sentences, and I'll show you the answers on the next slide. So here are the answers. When you inhale, the intercostal muscles contract, the rib cage moves up and out, the diaphragm contracts and flattens, moving down, the volume inside the lungs increases, the pressure inside the lungs decreases, and air is sucked into the lungs. So you can have a go at that challenge if you want, of writing a paragraph to explain how we breathe out. But if not, the next slide is going to give you a bit of structure to help you do that. Okay, so here we've got some sentences again and some words in the box again for you to have a go at writing about exhaling. And the next slide is going to be the answers. Here's the answers then. When you exhale, the intercostal muscles relax, the rib cage moves down and in, the diaphragm relaxes and curves, moving up, the volume inside the lungs decreases, the pressure inside the lungs increases, and air is forced out of the lungs. And there's those two gifs again of the bell jar and the actual breathing system. So have a go at this question. What is good and bad about the bell jar as a model of the lungs? So write down your answers, and if you want to check those, you can send them in to your teacher. Okay, lung volume. You need to be aware of these two methods of measuring lung volume. So one is on the left. This is water displacement. It says plastic jug, but actually it needs to be a bottle that's sealed, because otherwise the water won't stay in when you do this. So what you would do is you would fill the bottle up with water, and then keeping it upside down but keeping the neck under the water, that keeps the water in here. You then insert a plastic tube into the bottle, and you can breathe in through that plastic tube, and because you're breathing air in, you're pushing the water out, and then you can measure the volume of water, the volume of gas that you've breathed out into this bottle. The alternative is to use one of these bags, because you can breathe into this bag and then you can just read off how much air you've managed to breathe out. So this girl has managed to breathe out more than 6 litres of air, which is incredible. When I tried it, I got about 3. And here's your summary. So inhaling is breathing air in. When the ribs move up and out, the diaphragm flattens, move down and pulls air into the lungs. Exhaling is the opposite process. It's breathing air out. The ribs move down and in, the diaphragm curves and moves up and pushes air out of the lungs. Contract is when muscles tighten and get shorter. Relaxing is when muscles loosen and get longer. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle underneath the lungs, and lung volume is the maximum amount of air that your lungs can hold, and this can be decreased by old age and asthma. Thank you very much for listening. I'll speak to you next time.